David James, the legendary football player, joins me. Good to see you, David. First question, I hope family and friends are safe and healthy in this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity to talk to you, Hrishi. Yeah, the family's good. Obviously, I understand India is going through a tough phase at the moment, which we, in our own way, went through a few months ago. So now we're kind of easing off a little bit more with the lockdown, but the family's well, thank you. Yeah. Difficult to answer that one very well because things are so up in the air at the moment.
So the logical question to ask you is, are those your paintings? Is that your handiwork? All those paintings that are right behind you. And I see one of Clark Kent, Superman's alias.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So and I see a combination of portraits as well as landscape. So talk about your painting. I mean, what kind of stuff do you normally do?
I've actually got loads hanging up in here. I think I counted 23 paintings in lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah, ranging from, I've got one sort of ready to go now, but ranging from, Clark Kent, I think he was just before lockdown, but ranging from some kind of political stuff, portraits, family. I think I'm painting a couple for my mum, for a couple of dogs. So yeah, just I like painting, and it gave me an opportunity, to utilise what was a tough time in lockdown.
But it's not as though you did start painting for the first time in lockdown. It's something you've been doing for a while, isn't it? I mean, was it during your playing days?
Yes, yeah. I've got some paintings here from, what's that, 2004. I think I'm just looking at the date on it. 2004, yeah. So sort of on and off for 16 years now. So I think the thing with lockdown was because literally we had limited things to be able to do. It was a great opportunity just to. I think it's important, especially now in India, with what's going on there, that people find something to try and keep them from. I don't want to say going mad, but obviously struggling with these tough conditions. And I, fortunately, amongst having good people around me, I was able to sort of let a lot of my steam off in artwork, which is something I did when I was playing football at times as well. So very, very therapeutic.
But you didn't really train. You didn't go to an art school. It was just something that came to you instinctively. Yourself.
Yeah, I mean, my father, my biological father, was an artist in Jamaica. Not that I knew him too well, but whether there was some sort of hereditary skills left behind, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, it's like most things in life. The more you practice, arguably the better you get. So even when I was playing, as you say, I hadn't had any proper training other than what we did at school, which in the end wasn't that great because I was more focused on football. But when I was playing, I had a lot of time, especially when I was up in the northwest. I had a lot of time to be able to sort of practice. So yeah, and then, as I say, it all came flooding back during lockdown.
David, you've been coming to India for a while, but let's just turn back the clock and go to 2014, your first season here as player and coach. I mean, I know it ended in heartbreak with that Mohammad Rafiq goal in the final, but just soaking in India for the first time as a player professional and the experience of it, talk me through that.
Well, it was the first time in India in any capacity. Strange. I mean, the things you learn once. I mean, with India, I mean, obviously the second biggest populace in the world, and I knew literally nothing about the country before I went there. I knew where it was, of course, but I didn't know what it looked like. Didn't know the how can I say the range. I mean, the country itself is so diverse. These things didn't even make any sense to me until I went there. And on a footballing front, it was, again, even less. If I knew nothing about India beforehand, I knew less. If that's possible, I knew less about its football. So when I did my research and understood a little bit more about how Indian football had developed, I think I was I was pleasantly surprised in so many different areas. One of them being the desire of players, and I think from having spent 25 years in English football system, sort of going through the youth team into the first team, and even at the end of my English spell with Bournemouth, I travelled to Iceland and then travelled to India. And the richest thing I found was that the Indian players were as hungry, had as much desire as any football I played with anywhere else, especially, I say, the amount of time I spent in England. So how did I find it? I found it difficult, challenging environmentally. Obviously the setup in Indian football wasn't what I was used to in England, with our state-of-the-art pitches and training facilities. But when you've got a group of people or group of players as hungry and wanting to get the best out of their own careers, it was a lot easier. I mean, again, so the toughness of the environment was always going to sort of make things difficult. As you say, that Rafiq goal in the 94th minute made kind of put a temporarily. I think it was for just anecdotally, for about an hour, I was not happy, tremendously not happy. I think I sat on the bench, didn't talk to anyone. And then I walked over, and by which time Sachin Tendulkar had come down to the pitch, and he could see that I was, visibly not happy. And he said, "You know what? I lost my first IPL here with Mumbai," or something like that. And I was like, "Okay." And it was just the way that he said it. He said, "We'll have another go. We'll have another chance." So I was thinking, okay, well, if you can say that now, and you're like the top man in the team, at the club, then that gave me some heart. So, a quick chat with Sachin had kind of calmed everything down after that. But overall, it was a tremendous, that first year, 2014, tremendous experience, and something I cherish forever.
And David, it must have come as a huge surprise to you, because you always think of India as a cricketing country. And then you go to places like Goa and Kerala and Calcutta, now Kolkata, and you see stadiums which are in excess of 50,000 people in there, making noise and screaming their lungs out. And that must have been surprising for a bloke from Old Blighty.
Yes. Well, I mean, right from the beginning, because it was a new league. I didn't, again, the cricket context, I kind of knew that India played cricket. I wasn't a cricket fan, so I wasn't going there sort of trying to make any of those comparisons. But when we went to Kerala, we were in Thrissur doing a pre-season, and no one recognised us. And I thought, that's fine. It's a new league. No one's heard of Kerala Blasters before. But as the weeks went on and it got closer to the start of the ISL season, people started recognising us. And I thought, oh, this is nice. Obviously, we had our first game away to North East, and no one knew what was going to happen 5 weeks later or 6 games later when we had our first home game. And to have, I think it was 35,000 turn up for that first game was special, because it meant that there was an interest. And in that first season, I think there was the game against Chennai in the playoffs, 60 plus thousand, nearly 70,000 people there. The loudest I've ever heard a football match. I mean, well, the game prior to that, the last game I was playing, I can't remember which one it was now. Was it Pune? Might have been Pune. No, it wasn't, because Sandeep made that big save against Pune. Anyway, whatever the game was, it was so loud. And it was so loud before the game, it was so loud during the game, so loud after the game. And I said to people, I've never played in an atmosphere so loud. It was incredible. I mean, and you would walk out in the Kerala Stadium, the Kochi Stadium, and you would see these different groups of drummers. And it was just, it was amazing. The hair on the back of my neck's going up again. Now, it's one of the things, when you've played in maybe the most popular domestic league in the world, in the Premier League, to go to different countries to experience their version of the game that I've loved and still love. And as I say, for the Kerala fans especially, of course I'm biased, but for the Kerala fans especially, the Blasters, man, that was incredible.
And then you did come back as pure coach in 2018. Wasn't very successful. Um,
Mm.
I got to ask you a question about the league itself. A lot of football fans in the country are trying to find ways of improving the way the sport is governed and run in the country. Would you have some ideas? Because you do know we have an ISL, we have an I League, and any kind of comments from somebody as accomplished as yourself is welcome. What do you think we should do in terms of domestic leagues?
Well, there's two sides to it. One is, do you want just a good league, or do you want a good national team to be able to challenge globally? I mean, again, just pure numbers. You've got the second biggest population in the world. Somewhere in there should be an opportunity to be able to actually go and challenge at a higher level in international stakes. So, if you want just a better league, there's a great system there in one sense because there's no promotion relegation. You talked about my second spell with Kerala. We had originally we had a sort of 3-year plan. And that a lot of that is based on the fact that we weren't going to get relegated. We weren't going to have to suffer. So there was a bit more time. And for one reason or another, the time sort of elapsed very quickly. But similar to the NFL in a sense, or a lot of the American sports, if you haven't got the issue of relegation, then you don't have to worry too much about what happens the year after if you're in a different league. So there is a system available there, but with 10 teams in a league, you're playing 18 games. Most of those players are playing 18 games. If you're the best team, then you might play 21 games. If you add the cup into that, I think it works out to another 4 games possibly. 25 games a season is not enough for a footballer to be getting the amount of competitive play for your international team to start challenging. Now, if you're not interested, and that's where the second point, if the league or India is not interested in producing a better international side, then keep it at 10 teams. It's good, it's bad, it's whatever team you're supporting. Let's say no relegation, no promotion in one sense. But even with the AFC on a domestic level, you want your ISL teams or your I-League teams to be the best they can be to try and win the AFC.
Yeah.
Again, this is all things for fans. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but cricket's a massive game in India. It just so happened that they won the World Cup in was it 90? I can't remember what year it was, forgive me, but when Sachin was 19, maybe. So, that kind of focus, that kind of support for Indian sides will only help younger footballers want to come through, and again, the level improves. So, if I was asked, and you are asking me, combine the 2 leagues, essentially have 20 teams in the league. Traveling around India is difficult, of course, but somehow make this 20-team league work so you've got a lot more games for the players to play in. Investment in infrastructure is still, I mean, I haven't been to the ISL now for 2 years, but which is over a year and a half. Investment in infrastructure because, as I say, it amazed me how every team seems to have one training pitch. Again, for the size of a country of India, for teams to have literally one training pitch, it's not enough because just the general wear and tear means that the quality of the surface is going to be deteriorating and therefore the quality of the training sessions will deteriorate. So there's a couple of things there just to start with. As I say, the one thing that India has to its advantage, you have players who want to play. They want to be the best. The guys I had, and even after leaving, looking at being in an Indian national team, going to the AFC, and seeing some of the guys I worked with in the national squad, and I knew that they wanted to be there. It wasn't just a case of we play in the ISL and that will do. They wanted to get to the next level, and they still want to push. There is one other thing which India could do, which is very controversial, and that's to look at the single passport rule for international representation in sport. Again, controversial because you have dual passport holders across the world who are football players who could challenge to play in the Indian national team. And again, it's more about the national team this than necessarily the ISL, but then that would be able to push India into that top 70 of the FIFA rankings. Once India's in the top 70 for 2 years, all of a sudden Indian players can play in the Premier League, they can play in the Bundesliga, they can play in the Champions League. You know, at the moment there's a big restriction because obviously the national team aren't in the top 70. So again, there's a few things there that could be done.
Very
Just an
valid
observation.
point. Yeah. So, life as a broadcaster, might I add, I'm a massive fan of your broadcasting work. You know, you just nail it each time you're in front of that camera.
Thank you.
You know, covering the 2018 FIFA World Cup for Indian fans. Subsequently, your stints in broadcasting. Of course, one knows that I think it all started with BT in the UK, and then eventually you've gone on from strength to strength. Yeah. So, talk about your broadcasting career, in particular, your broadcasting career in India.
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting when you mention the UK, because it's again, it's a different way of broadcasting. Strangely, slightly frustrating at times. Or used to be quite frustrating because the broadcaster, sorry, not the broadcaster, but the pundit sometimes is bigger than the team that you're watching in a sense, which isn't the way it is. We're just there to give our expertise. So when the opportunity came to go to India with the Sony guys, I don't know. Maybe it's something I love about India. It's just everyone is so good, from producers through to presenters. You know, Manas is a massive Liverpool fan, so that helps. Sending it's strange with as I say, with England. I've got some friends who ex-teammates who I keep in contact with, but with the guys at Sony, we're constantly messaging each other, especially when the season's playing. You know, Liverpool are playing this message, and yeah, it's more like a family, which is what I like. We can go on there, we can talk, and I think we know each other well enough. You know, like Sir Mark and Terry, we know each other well enough. And I just love it. And I think the other thing is to say, having seen the footballing side of India, i.e. the players, and through the Sony network, being able to meet some Indian football fans. And this conversation that came up not so long ago with some friends about what's the difference between a fan in India who has never been to watch a Champions League game or a game in England, or a fan in England who's never been to the stadium.
Wow.
What's the difference? You know, the argument has always been, well, I'm in England and I go and watch the game. Well, if you don't watch the game, then you're the same. And the reason I say this is because I've sat there with the guys on some of the shows, and the fans have come on and they talk with passion. You know, they might not want to, it's not the fisticuffs things, but in the end, they're passionately supporting their side. And there's some Man United fans who now will be able to cheer about the fact they've qualified for the Champions League.
Yeah.
So, but as I say, these things for me, and it does, it's slightly selfish in a way, because as I say, having played the game for so long, it's so rewarding when you get to enjoy it with people around the world. As I say, in India, I get the same enjoyment. I was in Iceland recently watching some football, and it's the same. And this is what I love about the game. So I feel blessed that I've had the opportunity, first of all, to play in it, but now to continue enjoying it with fans around the world. So as I say, the punditry stuff in with Sony has been really, really, really good.
Lovely. Let's talk about some highlights in your career now. 4 years at Portsmouth. We will come to Liverpool, of course. But I want to start with 4 years at Portsmouth. Your time there was really eventful. The team did really well. Talk about Harry Redknapp, the coach you played under. And in 2008, you guys went and won the FA Cup. So also if you could share the memories of that victory, the manager and the team.
Well, Portsmouth was a strange turnaround of events. I have to say, I was at Manchester City pre-season in Bangkok, and essentially someone had said, look, you know, Portsmouth are interested. And the season before, Portsmouth had beaten Man City 2-1 at Fratton Park with Pedro Mendes scored 2 goals, a late winner in the top corner, and it helped Portsmouth survive. So at the time, I hated Portsmouth. I hated it. I was really frustrated. And fortunately, they survived because, as I say, Portsmouth came in. And I looked at it on the map. I'd moved to Devon. If anyone's familiar with the geography of England, Devon's down in the southwest. And I looked at the map and I thought, well, it's 100 and something miles. I can drive there.
2 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, you would imagine?
Well, yeah, but I thought it was an hour and a half. So
Okay.
it was kind of, yeah. I just looked at the map and thought, yeah, I can drive that. It's not a problem. And then realised it was 2.5 hours each way. So it was challenging in that sense, but it was a commitment I was prepared to make. Joined a side that was relegation fodder.
Yep.
And I said to the first season was amazing because I think we had 5 clean sheets in the first 5 games. I think it was up Christmas time. We were in the top 6. And people were saying, when I was doing interviews, what do you think about it? I said, look, I just don't want to get relegated. And that's all I could think about was not getting relegated. It was a bit like Ranieri at Leicester, 40 points. So we'd put ourselves in a really, really healthy position. In the end, we didn't achieve much other than breaking some sort of Portsmouth records for the Premier League in that first season. But the 2008, with a bit of shrewd investment from Harry, we had a very good side. The cup final, winning the cup was amazing. It was the best thing I think domestically I'd done. But we sort of had one game. It was a weird run because we had 6 games in the competition, 5 1-0s. I think it's 6 games, 5 games. All bar one game, we won 1-0. The other game we beat Plymouth 2-1, I think, at home. It was the only home game we had. Manchester United was the only Premier League side we faced. So it was a weird run. But yeah, we won that. That was amazing. And again, talking about fans, the thing that lives with me more than anything was the following day going to South Sea Common for the open bus stop. There were 200,000 Portsmouth fans there. Yeah. Now, when you
must
think
be the whole population of the place.
Absolutely, and that was the thing. It was the population of Portsmouth is 200,000. So it was almost like everybody had come out to see us and celebrate with us. So you kind of, as a player, I won the trophy and you're happy. But then when you see what it means to the fans, that's when you realise how important what you did is to people. And I always liken it to, Liverpool. Liverpool have done something amazing this year in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Population of Liverpool, I don't know what it is, maybe 1-2 million. But there wasn't 1 or 2 million people celebrating. Of course, we're in a COVID-19 situation here, and maybe if when lockdown finishes, everyone will turn up. But it was for Portsmouth, it was essentially the whole population. And again, it put a welcoming, different value on what football means to people. We had a couple of funny years then. We played AC Milan in the Europa League the following year, winning 2-0 with 10 minutes to go, and then someone called Ronaldo, I don't know if you remember him. He scored a free kick top corner, and then Inzaghi equalised, and it was from a 2-0 win position we ended up drawing. But Portsmouth fans will say that's the best game or the biggest game they've ever seen at Fratton Park, to have AC Milan come to Fratton Park. So all these things kind of added up. And then in 2010, 10 years ago now, we went to Wembley again, got relegated. The roller coaster, I don't think there's a theme park in Portsmouth. But if there was, they could have called it Portsmouth Football Club, because that's what it was like for those 4 years. It was just crazy stuff.
Mackers was visiting India for one of those corporate things. And I was lucky enough to have him in studio and did an interview. And I have to ask you about the Spice Boys of Liverpool in the mid to late 90s. You were part of that pack, though, Mackers was talking more about him and Fowler being great mates and things like that. So those must have been heady days, the Spice Boys of Liverpool, or in retrospect, do you think too much was made out of it and, you were just regular blokes having fun?
I've got a bit of ambivalence towards it. First of all, is I wasn't a Spice Boy when everyone was a Spice Boy. I think I'm like 3 or 4 years older than the Macca. No, Macca. I think I'm a couple of years older than Macca, but Robbie and I think Phil Babb was another guy in there. Who I was slightly older than everybody, so I was kind of excluded from the initial Spice Boy group, if you like, and retrospectively added to it. So yeah, I've kind of not so happy about being associated in that sense. But the interesting thing about it is that when you look at what the Premier League was doing, or what the Premier League was becoming, more importantly, you know, we'd gone from an old English typical league, i.e. the Division 1 as it was before, into this global league.
Yep.
Because of technology, all of a sudden, football was live, football was global. And with that, I suppose the downside or the upside, again, depending on your viewpoint, is that people want to know who you are. And we are also Liverpool Football Club, which was one of the biggest clubs in the world. So irrespective of results, we were still desirable in the eyes of whoever. And when I say whoever, I mean the likes of the media, sponsorship, whatever. So therefore, I think we sort of did something a little bit earlier than what's happening now, as in the group of players as opposed to just individuals. You know, Liverpool Football Club was now becoming or utilising or taking advantage of sort of, as I say, a larger focus. So it was good because it was part of the catapulting of English football, the Premier League globally, and we sort of rode on the waves of that. Unfortunately, when the waves hit the shore, we got wet because we didn't win anything. So it was kind of, you know, the Manchester Uniteds of this world who are keeping themselves controlled and out of the spotlight off the field. We're definitely doing it on the field, and in the end, they're the ones who will be remembered as a positive during those times, and we will always be the Spice Boys. So yeah.
Well, since David brought up Manchester United, I've got to say this, and for everybody who's watching or listening, much before David Beckham became the fashionista that he is, David James actually modeled for Armani. You did, didn't you? Much
Yes.
better before Beckham.
I've actually got the picture there on the wall.
You do. That's awesome. So, yeah, that must have been fun. Yeah.
Well, fun. I don't think you could call it fun because there wasn't really much time. We did again. This is part of the exposure that the Premier League was creating. That there was a fashion magazine in England. Stan Collymore had just signed for Liverpool, and the editor said, "Look, we want to do a photo shoot with you and Stan. You both have blonde hair. Last season, whatever. You know, are you happy to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, yeah, whatever," because we look similar. And he never turned up, Stan, for the photo shoot, so I did it on my own. So I was like, fine, you know, I don't want you to waste your time coming up to Liverpool, so we did it in a car park in Liverpool, and left it at that. Then the photographer contacted me and said, Armani's press guys have seen these photos in the magazine and they're interested in maybe doing a campaign. So I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. I've never been a model, so why not? What do we need to do? He said, we fly to Seville, literally stayed overnight in Seville, did the photographs next day and then flew back. We're in a car park in a garage in Seville. So, and wow. Just, you know, what do you want me to do? And it was just a strange experience because I'd never done it before. We did the photos and we got the campaign. So it was kind of quick exposure to something, but there was a legacy. I mean, it's going to be 25 years next year.
Wow.
Yeah. It's kind of so I've got the picture there and I'm looking at it. Okay. Slightly changed a little bit, but it's yeah, it was and it wasn't done for anything other than novelty value. And as I say, it goes back to the question, sort of the way that the point that the Premier League has grown football now. I mean, you look at the Champions League. You know, as I say, we're covering this on Sony. You're looking at the Champions League, and it is nothing like what the old European Cup used to be before essentially the Premier League time started. So for me to do modelling then was a big thing.
Yep.
And because Liverpool weren't winning, it was a big bad thing, actually. It was like a lot of criticism for it. Whereas now it seems, I'm not saying everybody does Armani campaigns, fortunately, but there's a lot more players doing a lot more things now.
David, you've been in the record books a bit. You're currently number 4, if I'm not mistaken, on the all-time appearances list in the league, and you had a clean sheet record, which was taken away by Petr Cech. So, what was your first instinctive thought when you heard that Cech has taken that one away? Do you know him? Are you guys mates at all?
Yes. What was my first thought? Is there a chance that he might move? I think the season because I'm trying to think, he was at Chelsea, wasn't he? Was he at Chelsea or was he at Arsenal when he broke it?
I don't remember that.
Wherever he was, I was hoping that he would sign for a foreign club. Seriously, I was thinking, please, just go and sign for Paris Saint-Germain or something, then you won't get the record. Yeah. And I was looking through who could be the next guy to break the record, and there was no one visible. So it was, but having met the guy numerous times, I mean, I know Petr. I couldn't think of a better person to be a record holder. The exceptional human being, exceptional goalkeeper, and for example, I have to tell you a story about him. He learned 5 different languages to speak to his defenders.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy's incredible. Yeah,
it helps if you are able to tell your defenders to get out of the way in many languages.
In their language, and that's the reason why he learned, so he could communicate better with his defenders. I mean, this guy is, let's say, it's exceptional. Current record holder for goals against in the Premier League. I think it was 14 or 15 in 2004-05, which I'm happy about because that year Man City were the only team to beat Chelsea. 1-0, Nicholas Anelka penalty. So anyway, yeah, fantastic. But there was a side to me that was like, do I need to go through the record books and see if I had one more, which they didn't, they didn't see. But in the end, I think Petr did over 200 clean sheets. So incredible. I think in Chelsea, he was like a clean sheet, literally a clean sheet every other game.
Any memorable saves that come to mind? I mean, it's been such an extraordinary career, almost 30 years. I know it's a difficult question to answer, but do you look back and say these were saves that were just amazing that I'm proud of? So I was at Watford the other day watching a game. That's where you started your career, isn't it? You're a Watford boy.
Yes, yeah. And I was chatting to the guys then about my debut. And in my debut, I made a save which wasn't given. It was given as a goal.
Oh.
Right, it's difficult for anyone listening.
Much before VAR. Much before VAR.
To get their heads around this. How could they not tell? I think we were lucky that we had a camera at the game. But I'd made a double save, and the second part of it was right next to the post, and it went beside the goal. And the linesman gave the goal, and I was like, hang on. So in a sense, that was like one of my best saves, but it wasn't recognised as a save. Beyond that, I mean, I'm fortunate again that I've had such a long career. And to sort of value one save, saving a shot against Turkey for England to qualify for the Euros, or the first save, and I can't even remember what it was, maybe in the World Cup as to actually, make a save in a World Cup final. The little things. It was not a good save. I think it was a scoop. But just little things like that, you'd never get the opportunity to do them if you don't do certain other things, i.e. the debut. There were saves, not as many saves as I would like in India, especially not against Goa. That still hurts. But yeah, everywhere I've been, there's been something which I can go, yes, that was.
Do you know one of the first things that pops up when you go on YouTube and you say David James?
Go on.
It's a bit long, though.
Sorry?
Do you know one of the first things that pops up when you
Go on.
search David James on YouTube? It's a little on YouTube. It's a little
Mm.
unfair, but it's the Ronaldo free kick. It will always be one of the first three things that pops up. So I'm like,
Yeah.
man, that a man's had a almost 3 decade long careers, all these wonderful saves. But you YouTube him, and one of the first three things that'll come up will always be the Ronaldo free kick, and that
Yeah, I
must.
don't know. I'm still struggling on how that makes me feel because it's kind of like I'm recognised more for Ronaldo's goal than yeah. It was a special free kick,
Yeah, it was.
and it was a frustrating day. And I think we lost 2-0. Um, and at the time, I just thought, yeah. There's this moment where you say, "I'm going to try," as in save it, and you judge the flight of the ball and all that, and it all happens in say a split second, quicker than that. And by the time I realised it was going to go on target, it was in. And I walked past, I think it was Gary Neville after the game, or we met up for England soon after. And I said to Gary, I said, I bet he practices that all the time. And he went, that's the first time he's hit the target. And I thought, you're telling me that he's hit the perfect shot the first time against me. He could have saved it for the week after. I'd happily had Casey Keller or someone else being Ronaldo's YouTube buzz. Do you know what I mean?
Well, 2 years at Manchester City. I mean, we talked about Liverpool, we talked about Portsmouth. Those 2 years in Manchester City. What would you think is the most notable, or memorable in those 2 years?
um, City was tough. It's again, it's not the City that people are looking at on sort of and what City are doing now. It was long before. I say long before. It was long before the money. Um, what were my memories of Manchester City? I didn't miss a game, which I was very proud of. It was 2.5 years essentially because I joined just before the Euros 2004. And similar to Liverpool, even though Liverpool was 7 years long, it seems I was at a club during a transition period. If you think Liverpool was Graham Souness signing me and then Roy Evans, then Houllier. I was signed by Kevin Keegan, and then there was Pearce, and then soon after, I think Spen was there, wasn't he? I think. So, joining these clubs during transition periods, you kind of, I don't know if you kind of expect more than possibly happened. And I think with City, that sort of fell into that. They'd also moved to a new stadium in the Etihad. And we had some really, really good players. Really, really good players, but for some reason we didn't get the performances quite right. As I say, highlight of our 2.5 years, I think, was beating Chelsea, the team that won the league in Mourinho's first year, by at the time record margin. So, we were sort of picking at loose bits just to keep ourselves happy. But I enjoyed my time there. Not so much at the end because of the way that I left the club, even though I went to join Portsmouth, and that was fantastic. It was a little bit funny, but at the time, as I say, this wasn't a club that we knew was going to have massive investment in it, or become the sort of, albeit for a short period of time, the all-powerful side in English football.
David, the playing for the English team. I mean, often there has been criticism over the sands of time of the English cricket team saying that, the English football team saying
English
that.
cricket.
See, now you know I'm Indian. So the criticism being that, even when you're playing for the national side, there will always be a posse of club guys who are hanging together. And you're never really a unit because you're just loosely strung. All this club football happening, and suddenly you have to turn up for the national side. Did you find that in your time there? Groups of people or posses of various clubs hanging together.
I think early days there was this Manchester United thing. I wouldn't say it was a clique. And retrospectively, it all makes sense. Manchester United did their own thing without being, because quite often with a clique, people are sort of visually distancing or trying to keep people away from them. Manchester United were just very well organised. These guys would be first down to meals, sat with each other because they were first down to meals. You see them on the training field; they could have their own little games within sort of group games. And I don't mean like 11-side football, but keep ball and stuff like that, because they were ultra competitive. Beyond that, no, the guys were guys. That Manchester United bit sort of loosened off. I mean, we're going essentially 3 decades here from the 90s, limited to 2 decades. We'll say 2 decades, from the early 90s through to the thousands, or the noughties, whatever. That loosened off, and I think possibly because things like social media and again technology. You've got to remember the beginning of the 90s, mobile phones were just things you rang with. You weren't things that you necessarily sending texts or doing social media on. Anyway, definitely not social media. So, the sort of the communication between players from different clubs was a lot more accessible. It was good at times, very, very good. Should we have won more? I always think that we didn't win because we weren't good enough. People talk about the sort of the golden ages and the golden teams and stuff, but you've got to look at the competition. France, especially 98, 2000. Then you've got Spain a little bit later than that. Brazil when it comes to World Cups. I mean, you're talking about special teams. That Spanish team was so special. Will they repeat that? Who knows? But the point being is when you've got a side which is pretty good or very good, you come up against something very special or that's within the mix. I think that 2004 side. I know Spain didn't win. I know it was Greece who won that Euros. But I mean that was an anomaly. Maybe it could have been England, but we had a good side, very good players, but just not quite good enough. And in the world of sport, this, not quite good enough.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
The only manager we've talked about is Harry Redknapp at Portsmouth. Any other managers who really impressed you, who you had a kind of a bond with, who gave you wings to fly, if I could call it that?
A bond? Oh, no, not sure if I had a bond. Even like Harry, I had tremendous respect for Harry because he had respect for me. I'm not a friend of managers in a sense. I think that becomes dangerous if you're someone's friend.
Sure. Yeah.
There's conflict of interest.
Managers who impressed you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just sort of trying to, because I just think that there's conflict of interest if your friend is having to make a decision. And what I found, Harry trusted me, rightly so, because I was only ever wanting to win games of football, do the best I can in performance. So Harry trusted me. The other manager I found was Eddie Howe when I was at Bournemouth, and not for good reasons necessarily. I mean, he basically told me that I wouldn't be signed for the following season, which wasn't, I suppose, at 43 at the time. 43. I wasn't surprised, but it was the way that he did it, which was so good. And then the following week, he told me I wouldn't be playing again, and which I wasn't happy about. But it was the way that he did it was so good, and I had so much respect for him because he told me how it was. And a lot of managers don't do that. A lot of managers will sort of blow smoke, and you get a feeling that they're not telling you the truth. Whereas Eddie was straight down the line. And when you think that the side that I was playing for in Bournemouth was in League One in 2013, I think that's 7 players who were playing in the Premier League 3 years later. So, he carried the side. Yes, they've got relegated this year, but he carried a side through 3 divisions, essentially by being as honest and straight as he is. So Eddie was one. Internationally, I like Capello. When we were qualifying for the World Cup, I found him no nonsense, at times unapproachable, but the directive was clear, and the preparation was immaculate. And when we qualified for the 2010 World Cup, there was one defeat against Ukraine. We won every other game, and the defeat essentially was because Robert Green got sent off after 15 minutes. So we played 75 minutes, with 10 men. So it was a tough game and an understandable defeat in that sense. But we won every other game, and I thought, this guy is great. He's never going to be my best friend, but he was someone I looked at when we went to training, and the training was so hard as well. For 10 days, it was the hardest international training that I'd done, and but we won. So it was kind of like, I don't mind. Let's bring on another 10 days. Bring on another 10 days. Then we get to the final, and things didn't work out so well. So that was the end of my international career. But he was good. And Sven Gordon Eriksson, another manager who was much more approachable, shall I say, than Sven. But he just was so honest. And as a player, you just want the truth. And the reason I say this, I played a game against Spain. I think we might have won 3-0. And the following game, Sven said, I'm going to play David Seaman. And I was like, okay, fine. But he explained it to me. There's a little bit more to it than that. He explained, you've got plenty of opportunities in the future. Don't worry about it. And I was thinking, all right, cool. Okay, thanks. Thanks for telling me and not just dropping me. Do you know what I mean? So, and then I went on to play for Sven in 2004, whatever. So, some good guys.
I've actually seen you do a bit of a broadcasting bit where you're in goal and you talk about Capello, and you're saying that, one of the first things he told the guys in the wall, you'd put an extra guy in the wall, and just before the free kick went off, he would tell that guy to move so that you got a straight access vision to the ball, which I thought was quite ingenious.
Well, this is one of the things I liked about Fabio. He wasn't frightened of asking a question. And if he didn't understand something, he would walk up to, especially the goalkeepers, and go, why did you do this? And I was like, we was like, well, because. And he goes, I don't understand it. Why don't we do this? Da, 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 da. And when he said about the wall, the first time he said it, I was thinking, okay, here we go. Yeah, go on then. And it worked. And the scary thing is, I conceded 2 free kicks that I can remember. And unfortunately, one of them was in the FA Cup final. Actually, the other one was Ronaldo. So there was 2 free kicks I conceded where the wall didn't work, as in the guy didn't stand in the right place, and it made me do something different, and the ball ended up in the back of the net. So Capello actually got that perfect.
Listen, you've done Strictly Come Dancing, so that was that a challenge to yourself, saying, "I'm going to do this," because one doesn't associate football players with Strictly Come Dancing or a dance reality show. I don't know how it is in the UK, but I'm just saying.
There's a few that have done in England, I think.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan. So as in, my parents watched it. I found out later that lots of other people watched it, and I also found out it's the most popular show on English TV. But I wasn't a fan. I didn't have time to watch it. I was either playing football or doing football stuff. So for the 16, 17 years it's been running, I didn't watch it that much. They asked me to do it numerous times, and literally work happened this way. I got a message in the morning from my agent, and I went, nope, and that was it. Went round to my friend's house, who was the former Olympic swimmer. And I said, just got asked to do Strictly again. He went, you should do it. So what do you mean? He said, well, I've done it. I said, yeah? I said, yeah. He said, it's really, really good. He said, the guy's really good. Da, 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 da. And we sat down and we had this chat, and he got me to not say yes, but to go and meet the guys and let them explain to me what was going to go on. So I went and met the guys again. Well, the first time, sorry, sat down, we had some coffee, lunch, and they were explaining. I said, you know what? I might do this. Can I have a practice? Went off, did a practice for 20 minutes and said, right, let's do it. So that was it. Because I just didn't want to fall into this a situation where it was like a celebrity TV show.
Sure.
I'm going to be making a fool of myself, or worse, I'm going to have to say things or make it look like I'm saying things about other people, which isn't true. So, and then once I started, the biggest concern I had was being injured. Unfortunately, towards the end of my career, I was suffering quite a bit with injuries, and I thought, I'm supposed to be dancing. We ended up doing, some days we were doing 11 hours training.
Whoa.
Yeah. But the irony is, right at the end, when I actually got voted off, I was at my fittest. It was one of those, I thought, yeah, come on, let's do some more. So, but it was a wonderful experience. Scary because it's like, hang on a minute, I'm trying to remember. And with football, it's like cricket, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Best cricketer in the world, you're only going to do what someone makes you do, i.e. the ball's bowled and you hit it. There's no rehearsed movement from beginning to end. And dancing was all about remembering moves. And I just for some reason, just didn't quite work. But it was good fun.
Is there a goalkeeper that you really loved growing up? Your idol in goal?
There's a few, I think. From actual seeing and imitating would have been Bruce Grobbler from Liverpool. I'm a Luton Town fan, and I used to go and watch the Luton games when they're in Division 1. And Bruce, Liverpool came down one time, and Bruce was there. He ran out, caught a corner on a penalty spot. And I just looked at him and went, wow, I've never seen that before. Who is this guy? And then next training session, I'm trying to catch balls on the penalty spot. He was the guy that I imitated. But, the likes of Ray Clements, I'm trying to think, Pat Jennings. I mean, again, it's funny, going right back to the beginning of this conversation, football was very English, with the World Cups and Euros chucked in, whereas now football is global. I mean, the other day I was watching some Chinese football for a free sports channel. So, so we were very English based, and our goalkeepers were very British. Lev Yashin, actually saying that, the Russian goalie. I think I watched him in a World Cup, and I think it probably to do with the fact that he had black on. No, sorry, forgive me. Lev Yashin was older. Daizev. I don't know if you remember Daizev, the Russian goalkeeper. Schumacher. Yeah, but I used to like the kids. So if they had a good kid, then he was a good goalie. So
yeah, goalies are the flamboyant kids, Rene Higuita and all these guys.
Yeah,
my God.
Campos, another one. Yeah.
Last couple of questions. I'm not going to indulge you in the Ronaldo versus Messi discussion because that's done to death. But I just want to know: have you ever had any personal interactions with Ronaldo or with Messi? What kind of blokes are they off the pitch?
With Messi, straight. I mean, I don't know them, so I can't pretend that I'll give you some insight in that sense. But the experiences, Messi, it was a year after the cup final, 2008. So there was a free kick competition.
Oh.
The strange thing, it was a free kick competition in Texas and in Houston. And the competition was at Houston Texans NFL stadium.
Wow.
Yeah. So Messi was there, Baptista, Marquez, Campos. I can't remember exactly who was there, but there was a number of players. Now Messi wasn't the Messi that he is now, to the point that someone had mentioned that this guy was good. And we were in a hotel, and he walked past, and I think he came up literally just above my waist. It was amazing. Tiny. He would just walk around with his mates with a baseball cap on. He was not looking to be anyone's centre of attention, even though I think at that time he was probably a superstar anyway. And he didn't win, which was nice. I won, and It was a weird one, but
Yeah.
that was back in 2008. With Ronaldo, it's slightly different. I'd been in Portugal doing some rehab after
Okay.
a couple of operations, and my son, where we were staying on this resort, we went for dinner one night, and the guy who owned the resort came up and he went, "Guys, you can't use the football pitch tomorrow. We've got a special guest."
Oh.
And we're like, "Okay, who's that then?" And he went, "Ronaldo." It's like, okay, the Man United player. So I wasn't really that happy about it, you know. But my son said to me, "Dad, can I go and watch Ronaldo?"
And how old was the son at that time?
This is 2009, so what's 11? He's 16.
16. Okay. Yeah.
15. And I said, "Right, son, we'll go over there and we'll walk up there." So I'll begrudgingly walk because you've got to remember he's already scored this goal, that free kick by us. So it's kind of head down. But he's playing football with his mates. And DJ, my son, he said to me, "Dad, can I play?" So when I walked by the pitch, saw Ronaldo. Ronaldo looked, he waved. I waved to him. Nice, cool. I asked one of his friends if my son could go on, and he said as long as he doesn't tackle him, then he can go and have a kickabout. So he went and played football with Ronaldo.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and this is the thing. It was kind of like Ronaldo and I aren't friends. It's not like, you know, this is something that we're doing through from understood friendship. Maybe he felt pity for me because of the free kick, but my son could go on there, play.
Sweet.
And from that moment, I had a lot more respect for him because he didn't have to do it. And the other thing about Ronaldo, which is interesting, is his work ethic. I know on the Sony shows that we've been doing, it's been mentioned numerous times. I think by most people now will talk about Ronaldo's work ethic, but Rio Ferdinand mentioned it, and I just thought, you know, this is a guy who is the best in the world. You know, we don't need to go into the debate, but one player has been able to change his style of football and still be at the top of the tree. Another guy just seems to be doing the same thing very, very well, I must add, in Messi. But Ronaldo has been able to change his game, and yeah, you know, the work ethic to be the best in the world. It all makes sense, and he deserves everything he gets.
Lovely nugget there. Let's sign off with your DJing. So, what kind of music is that? Back in the day, were you doing the CDs and the vinyls and things like that? Now you just play it off a
Vinyl.
computer.
Well, actually, funny you say that. Vinyl was my thing. I refused
Wow.
to DJ with CDs. It was all about being tactile. So I had to feel the records. But now I've actually got decks,
Nice.
but not for vinyl. MP3, yeah, and my laptop. Another thing in lockdown, sit on the gym bike and DJ on my laptop. It's kind of it's a weird little setup, but it kind of allows me to do two things I enjoy doing. Because sitting on a bike for no reason is tough now. Years ago, I'd have done it for fun, but now it's kind of getting a bit tougher. So yeah, I DJ, listen to. It changes, my mood changes. When I was in India, I started downloading a lot of Hindi music.
Yeah.
And especially some Carnatic music for when I was down in Kerala, yeah. And if I can, I mix it into sort of house music.
Wow. That is
I
something.
try. So Arpit, for example, when we're we're in the Sony green room before we're doing the set, and Arpit will be there, and every now and again I'll be trying to mix in some Hindi music with some dance beats. And the thing is, Arpit knows the tracks. He knows the Hindi tracks or
The Hindi tracks.
but he doesn't know any of the dance tracks. It's quite funny. So yeah. So
But you were the guy. You were the guy in high school who used to play at all the parties. I imagine. If you started DJing it, yeah.
No. No, I didn't go to parties when I was young. I was wannabe footballer.
No. I mean, as a DJ.
Yeah, no, I started DJing after I left school.
Much later. Okay.
Yeah,
Because the
and
popular boys at school are the ones who DJ the parties in school, right? So
oh,
that's
is that
why.
okay? Okay, yeah. I did used to DJ. I used to go out and DJ in clubs
In clubs, yeah.
in Wales, especially. But once I started playing properly, I had to limit my focus on DJ. But now again, because I'm not playing, I get a lot of opportunities to do it. So yeah,
David James, thank you very much for this wonderful hour of your time. It's like you said, it's like a roller coaster. You know, it's just taken me through so many facets of your life, and your fans who are going to watch this, hear this, are going to be so, so happy. Thanks very much for this. Cheers.
my pleasure. Thank you.